y'all, what's going on? It's BarbMeetsWorld, and we are back to discuss the Real Housewives of Potomac, season 10, episode 12, Potomac and Ponies and Problems. Before we get into all that, though, y'all, you already know I need you guys to do a couple things for me and my channel, which include liking the video because it helps me and my channel in terms of the algorithm. It helps me attract new subscribers such as yourselves. And if you are not a current subscriber, go ahead, hit the subscription button, become a Bars Babe. I would love to have you. Also, share me with all of your folks near and far. Also, drop down in those comments. Let me know what you thought of this episode, as well as my commentary. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you stay informed on every time I make an upload and each and every time I go live. And follow me on all of my social media accounts that are scrolling along the bottom of the screen. Hey, y'all, what's going on? Okay, so, well, first of all, I just got back from yoga. I'm actually about to go to a doctor's appointment after this. And then I'm also working out again this evening. So your girl is getting to it. I'm definitely getting to it, and I am so that's just why I wanted to give you guys that disclaimer and let you know that I may look a little underdressed, but we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it nonetheless. Okay, so this episode was kind of filler-ish, but obviously this was the big blow up with Wendy and her mom on this episode. So we, of course, have to talk about that, as well as a couple other little things that were interwoven into the scenes. So because I don't want to make this too long, let's just jump right into it. Let's go. So the episode picks right up with the family event or whatever. Angel is still explaining herself to the ladies, and she lets them know she was not evicted, homegirl, and Angel's better than me. I wouldn't have had any answers for them because they don't sign my checks and they don't provide the roof over my head. So I don't think I need to provide you any other answers other than what she told them from the get-go, which is there was a mix-up with the dates, and that's just what it was. And can we also not act like on other franchises, we can't act like individuals don't move to certain areas in order to be on the shows. I mean, shout outs to Meredith Marks from The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Who else? Freaking Larsa from Miami. She doesn't live in Miami full time. She lives in Miami when the show is going. And then she also lives over in LA, if I'm not mistaken. Heather Dubrow as well. She has her main house, I think, that she lives in now is in Beverly Hills. So that's why everybody's always telling her, like, girl, why don't you just be on Beverly Hills if you don't even be in Orange County like that for real, that much. And Kenya back in the day, Jessel, like there's been multiple housewives that have lived elsewhere during the off season. So we're not going to sit here and try to make this a big ass deal when it comes. See, I'm already cussing. Oops. We're not going to make this a big deal when it comes to Angel. That I will stand in solidarity with her on that one, that particular thing. Moving on. Did you guys peep when Eddie was telling the guys about their 15-year anniversary coming up? Once again, I think that was production making sure that they were going to draw attention to anything that has to do with Wendy and Eddie's finances, anything that has to do with their coin, what they got going on down at the bank. They're always going to try to exploit those little scenes, I feel like, and those sound bites because of what's happening in real time. Let's just be real, y'all. That's what it is. You can't tell me otherwise. Oh, I just realized I haven't even been using my like Christmas background. I have a Christmas background. Anyway. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure I brought that up because it keeps happening. Moving right along, in slithers Charisse in this lace bodysuit denim combo. I wasn't really too fond of it, but she likes it. I love it anyway. So according to her, Actually, no, it wasn't right there. They said a little bit more before that happened. So she comes right up to Stacey, who is anything but enthused to see her, rightfully so. And we also see Timo leaving after just being there 32 minutes. I don't have a problem with him leaving. I think a lot of us as the viewers understand why he wasn't too keen on being there for an extended amount of time. I don't blame him for that. But we have Gizelle's and Ashley's going over there talking about some, oh, why are we handling him with kid gloves? And why are we catering to this? And it was actually Wendy that went and fed them that information and let them know that he left. And I'm like, see, that just, when Wendy does stuff like that, that's what irritates me, because it just seems like she's just so happy to be in good graces with the Ashleys and the Gizelles, and I just don't understand that. You could be cool, but it just seems like she's just so just absolutely elated to be so chummy with them, and I think that that's corny and whack. I do. I'm sorry. Anyway, so they all break to play some games or whatever. Sharice's son Jackson comes in. He's 27, and we see that 2 days prior, Ashley actually revealed to Sharice that after the crab boil that Sharice had hosted in her house, was that back in 2023, Jackson had to drive Ashley home because she was wasted, and they wound up kissing in so many words. And we also found out, based on that same flashback and Watch What Happens Live, that it didn't even just end in a kiss, because she says to Sharice, oh, if it didn't end in a kiss, would you be okay with that? And my whole thing with that is, obviously, because I see a lot of people online talking about he's grown, she's grown, whoop-de-doo, who cares? It's just two grown people coming together and doing what they want to do. Why that is all fine and true, y'all, the fact that Ashley, who obviously has seen this young man before he was even of age, she knew him. This is somebody who you're supposed to be friends with their mom. My thing is, that's absolutely disgusting, because if the roles were reversed, it would be an issue. They have a 10-year age gap, so it's not even about the age gap so much so, but if it had been an older man and a younger woman, that would have been, people would have been all over that, saying that is not cool, that's not cute, why are we doing this, that's not all right. So I just have to point that out. I also have to point out, again, this is your friend. You knew this young man since he was a child. It's just weird to me. It's just really weird, and honestly very desperate, I feel, on Ashley's part. Not cute at all. And another thing, I'm still waiting for Gizelle to come forward and call Ashley out for doing that, because wasn't Gizelle the same person that said that Stacey can't be trusted around the husbands and the children? Okay, so what do we call this then, Gizelle? So we can't call out Ashley, whatever her name is. We can't call her out for smooching up on Sharice's son. Isn't that the same thing? And this is why Candace says the line is always moving. Shit like this. I was just annoyed by that. And I also was annoyed. Actually, we'll jump into that right here, right now, because Sharice she didn't get as perturbed over it as I would have in that moment. And again, it's not saying that he is not of age. It's not saying that he's not grown and can't choose who he wants to be kissing up on. We're not saying that at all. It's just the fact that this is supposedly your friend. Like, that's just weird. Weird. So Sharice's reaction, in my opinion, was completely delayed, because I guess she had to watch it back, and she saw how people were calling her out for not having a big enough reaction to it. And so she said, I honestly didn't believe it. One thing I know for sure is that no matter how I respond, people will take issue. I have not been edited to represent my real personality over the years. At this point, I am 60 and just want to pop in and have fun with this group of ladies. I don't mind meaningful conversations, but to flip out just for cameras over fake or petty issues is not my thing. I don't think it was a fake or petty issue. I think you did believe her. I think you just either are A, super desperate just to be on a show, so it's like whatever, or B, again, you're just doing this based on the fan reaction. Did she say anything else? I can see the disrespect now. At the time of filming it, I didn't believe it. One thing I do know for certain is that there are no real friendships in this business. Okay, if you say so. I was totally oblivious to how this game is played. A lot of ruthless, cutthroat players. It's crazy. They smile in your face while having a dagger placed in your back. Again, I don't feel like it was any different watching it back than it was for you to be in that scene, Shreeze. So again, if you wanted to have these feelings, I feel like you should have had them in the scene. You're pulling an angel. You're doing a delayed reaction, mama. Like what's up with that? Okay, enough with that. And also, I think that that's kind of embarrassing. Potentially, that could be an embarrassment for Jackson, because now you're putting his business out there on Front Street. Like that's just, maybe he didn't want the whole world to know that. Maybe he didn't want his mom to know that right then there. But then again, he shouldn't, he should also not did. It's just weird. It's just weird. And I feel like it was completely avoidable and should have never happened. Full stop. We hear Angel telling Tia how she really feels about being questioned about her living situation. And another delayed reaction, in my opinion, too, because if I was Angel in that moment and they were probing me and poking at me and trying to call me out for being evicted, whoop-de-woo, I would have politely handed my baby off to her father and I would have scalped them one by one. That's just what I would have did. And I feel like this is why a lot of people, including Stacey even, because shout out to Stacey, she did a interview and I caught it this morning on Carlos King's podcast or whatever, and she pointed out that Angel is kind of notorious for having these delayed reactions, and it's just like, girl, we got so many scenes to shoot, we got so many lunches to go to, so many dates to go on, so many nail appointments to have, and it's just like you keep coming back a scene or two later after you done talked to your husband or whatever with these reactions that you should have had in the moment. This is what I feel like she meant, is stuff like this. Even though this was had a little bit less of a gap in between, it still was like, girl, like I said, I would have handed my baby off and got them together with the quickness. But that's just me. That's just me. I'm just saying. So afterwards, they play some games, whatever. And because Gizelle called Angel out for trying to talk when it was game time, Angel's like, girl, like, how are you going to expect me to just come back and be down with the get down after what just occurred? And although I do understand that and agree with that, once again, y'all already know how I felt and how I would have handled it. So I don't need to continue to beat a dead horse with that one. Afterwards, they eat. Stacey's serving Cameron. She's fixing her plate or whatever. And they got these patriotic American flag ass plates. And Cameron goes, oh, is that a Donald Trump plate? And Stacey's like, it's a, what's she saying, American flag or whatever? She's like, well, same thing or same difference, whatever. Cameron has all the personality, and I feel like it would be very nice to continue to see her on the show. We saw her since didn't Wendy come on the show after she had her, like 5 months after or something like that? It was very, very short time afterwards. So we have seen her grow, and I feel like it's nice as she is coming into her own and just becoming a little young lady. It's nice to see these moments, and it gave me all the feelings of like watching Riley. Shout out to Candy and Riley, her being on the show for so many years. If you watch Married to Medicine, shout out to Alora. It's just, we love to see the Bravo kids. We love to see the Housewives kids. And that's why it really pains me to think that Wendy could possibly not be on the show anymore, depending on how these legal matters turn out for her in the next few months. It's going to suck to see. And it's also going to suck because Cameron, didn't they just film that commercial and stuff? So she's really starting to come into her own in that regard. And we would love to continue to see that being developed, Wendy. Like, anyway. So what else? Ashley speaks to Jackson for a little bit. Eddie tries a potato salad after some stalling. He actually thought it was good, but he only need more than one bite though. And I loved when Wendy said, "That's your friend's son. Like, y'all better not ever kiss one of my friends or my kids or whatever." I appreciated that, and I share in that sentiment, Wendy. Moving right along, Tia and her husband, they're trying to get their kids to be more responsible and do some chores and help out around the house. I know I've kind of touched on it delicately before, but I feel very confident in saying this with my full chest at this point in the season. These kids, they got a lot of attitude. They got a lot of mouth. They got not a lot of responsibility around the house, because I'm just saying, even at their ages, I never just, picked up my candy and just threw the wrapper or whatever. I never did that. It feels like the way that Tia comes off and is so assertive with the Stacey's of the group, maybe she needs to inflict some of that onto her children. I'm just saying. I hate to talk about people's kids. I'm not even talking about her kids as much as I'm just talking about the dynamic and trying to rein that in. I'm just saying, because it continues to be, I don't think that the point is getting across. I feel like she's had the same type of conversation since the beginning of the season, and now we're at episode 12. It's just saying. Okay, so we find out that her half-sister, Amira, is coming to visit. She also has a half-brother. She found out about them in her teens. And back then, she wasn't so welcoming of the relationships in support of her mom. She was a mommy's girl in that regard. And so she didn't start to really foster those relationships until her dad passed away. And ever since then, it's been great. Her and her sister have a lot of similarities. So we'll be seeing her coming to town in a few more in the scene to come. So Stacey and Timo, they're working out. I don't really have much to say about this other than he don't need her to have a big butt. I mean, I like, a nice plump butt. My husband likes my butt. But to each his own. Just saying. Okay, I understand that. So again, he still has his place. They're still doing good though. Whatever. Angel, she's getting things situated with her family because, again, they are moving back to Colorado temporarily, and she's going to be hosting ladies, and she is going into it with an open mind, but at the same time, she's not about to tolerate any disrespect up underneath her roof, and I have to agree with her on that one. I do. Moving right along, the renovations are done at Wendy and Eddie's house after 2 months. It looked really nice. It did. And so next they want to move on to a pool. She asks him, do you want to tackle the basement or do you want to build a pool next? Like, what you feeling? He said pool. She's like, yes. I'm on board with the pool. Let's get it done. Anyway, so she has decided that she wants to give her dad a call. We see her call him, and it's I mean, the conversation went well enough, I guess she said that she wasn't going into it with like some super high expectations or anything. This is just something that she wanted to do, and so she does, because she still had those lingering thoughts and feelings or whatever. And we do know that when she went to Nigeria last year, whenever it was, for the 3+ weeks, her father did not see her or his grandchildren, which, okay. So she tells him she misses him. He says that there's no need to cry over spilled milk. And I don't know if that was so much as dismissive as much as I think that was just the language he chose to, the particular language he chose to use. I don't think that customs and courtesies are different, obviously, across different cultures. So I don't think that it was necessarily him being dismissive when he said that or anything like that. But I don't know. I don't know her dad, so I can't speak to him and how he has or hasn't showed up, like she said before. So if it's good enough for her, then cool. But yes, I also would suggest her not getting her hopes up and not going into it with some huge expectations. I'm glad that she said how she felt, but I don't think that she fully really, and maybe that's something that needs to happen face to face or at a later date. Maybe this was just to break the ice, but I do think that she needs to really make sure she's letting her feelings be known, like the gravity of her feelings, because I feel like she kind of gave like a wave top explanation of how she's been feeling and didn't really dig as deep into it as we've seen it be placed upon her so heavily. Just my thoughts. He says he misses his grandchildren and that he's hopeful that they can work something out. I'm like, again, I still don't feel like there's an excuse. I get he was sick at first, but I don't think that he was sick to that degree for a whole 3 weeks. I'm just saying that would bother me. And being as though she hasn't seen him in 20 years, he's never seen the grandchildren then. Oof. He does look good though. They wind up FaceTiming and he asks for Eddie. He doesn't ask for the grandchildren. But Eddie, jumps the camera. Hey, what's up? How are you? Whoop-de-woo. And he looks good though, especially like for his age to have a daughter who Wendy's like 41 or so. Her Ivy's a little bit older than her, I want to say. So he looks good. But yeah, that's how that went. Gizelle has a video call with the child development officer of the National Brain Tumor Society. And we find out that she was able to raise $1.2 million at the 5K that they did a few months ago. Her father's estate still hasn't been settled, but when she does things like this, it does bring her closer and does make her, think of him, and it provides her some level of comfort. Moving along, then we see Kay pull up to Greg's house in her Range Rover, and we find out she'll be moving back in with him for the second time around. I think I've told you guys how I feel about that. So I don't understand why she wanted to do this whole like Miss Independent move into her condo thing over the last season or so. I don't really understand that because we're right back here after a trip to Jamaica, like whatever. Anyway, so when I say y'all, this man proceeds to pull out a big box filled with red roses inside, which is cool. She likes those. That's fine. That's cute, right? And then he proceeds to, then she proceeds to dig down further, whatever. And it's actually this beautiful, shiny, brand new picture frame. I didn't stutter. I'm not pulling y'all leg. And he says that they are going to put their first picture in there together. It's actually a picture frame. The bag was a bag from the jewelry store that we seen him looking at rings in just an episode or two ago. And so she's like, oh, thanks. Yay. Oh my gosh. I would have crashed out if I was her. And actually, no, I take that back. I wouldn't even crash out because if I was her, I wouldn't be in this situation. Kay is a bad bitch, okay? She is beautiful head to toe. The fashions be fashioning, the wigs be wigging. Like she has it. She has it. I mean, like for real. Not when she does faces like this, but anyway, she has it, so I'm not understanding why she's decided to stick so closely to this man that doesn't really truly deserve her, I feel. And I know we're only getting a glimpse of their lives, y'all. I know we're only getting just a small percentage of what goes on in their day to day. But girl, like, wake up. Like, what am I missing something here? And for you to like, I'm like, are you guys trolling us? Maybe like she's in on it and they're trolling us. I don't know. You know, other people are thinking like he'll propose at the reunion, or I think it's safe to say, especially based on Stacey's interview, that he didn't propose at any point in the season. And what Stacey actually said in regard to Kay and Greg's relationship is that you know, you want your partner to want you. When Carlos had asked her, does she think that Greg is going to propose or whatever, she said, you know, being someone that was married for so many years, you want your partner to want you. And I'm assuming that means that she's not really seeing that with them. And I'm just like, I'm not calling Kay old, but I want to say she's like 38 or so, whatever. Like, stop wasting your time on this man. If you do want to get married, move the fuck on to somebody else who is in that same place, because nothing he has going on right now tells me that he's in that same place. And you're just going to keep trying to pull blood from a rock, and it's very cringy and awkward. And if I was you, humiliating to watch. I'm just being truthful, y'all. That's all I can do. So anyway, then they start to talk about her condo, and she's like, she just wants to verify that he's still cool with her having the condo in her name and it being a gift from him. Still not understanding how it went from her getting condo to him. I'm so confused. And then as far as this house, his new house, is she going to be put on the deed at, you know, some point? Because when people get married, that's typically what they do, I guess, or whatever. So his language even showed you, Kay, further proof of the fact that he's not in that same place as you, because he wasn't even using like pronouns or anything like that. He was speaking in generalizations, talking about, yeah, when people get married, or when they get married or whatever. And she's like, you mean we, like when we get married or whatever? And he's like, yeah, oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, no, I'm a very firm believer that not even just men, people in general, if they want something, they're going to let it be known. They're going to put action behind those words. There's not going to be no questions. And I feel like you might put on a brave face, but you truly are still questioning. Okay, I feel like you are. And by questioning, I mean questioning him. Is he going to? Is he not? What's really going on? You're trying to act like you're content, but I don't feel like that's the truth. I feel like you're trying to save face, especially on this show where we saw one episode go by of Stacey calling out how you want a ring, and then next thing we know, Greg is down there at the jewelry store looking at rings. We hear about the condo and how he didn't get you the condo or whatever from Jassi. She do a dig out there with you in a condo, and the next episode we see Greg, you talking to Greg about how he gonna buy you the condo or whatever. So it just seems like she's like flailing around trying to keep up with an image on here, or keep up with what we all are seeing in the audience. I'm just saying, I don't know. He says he don't plan on being in that house for that long. Sorry, y'all. He don't plan on being in that house for, I guess they agreed on like a 5 to 6 year plan or whatever. That's not going to be his / theirs forever home. And I'm like, okay, so that means you're not going to put her name on the deed? Like, what are we talking about? I can't do it. Anyway, we see the scene with Wendy and her half sister, Amira. Her kids haven't quite grasped the timeline of how they became sisters, again, because they have different moms. Like, And that's a conversation that Tia will have to have with them when they do find that out. I feel like you should just be direct, and I feel like you should just take it right on chin and just jump right into it head first and tell them the truth. Because again, I felt like this episode, we got a lot of people trying to, you know, safeguard children, people, or whatever from the poor image that can be painted in regard to other men and their lives and stuff like that. And I feel like that this is consistent with that same idea, because I'm like, you know, Tia, just tell them, like, that's no shade on you or whatever. Like, it is what it is. Your father created a little side family or whatever from how I see it, and that's just what it is. But nonetheless, they're in a good place though. They reflect a bit on the history, and they both shed some tears on, you know, how it was, I guess, rough, so to speak, in the beginning. And Tia wasn't obviously enthused to find out that she had half siblings, because obviously, again, yes, that meant that something that was a negative point for her mother. That was something negative that went on in her parents' marriage or whatever. So yeah, I get that her sister and her half brother are a direct representation of that, but ultimately, I am glad that she wisened up, that she did mature to realize that, yeah, just because your daddy was trifling or whatever, doesn't mean that y'all shouldn't still have a relationship or anything like that. Like, you didn't want this to happen. I don't think that your half siblings wanted this to happen. Like, it's just something that happened because your father was doing whatever he wanted to do, is how it sounds. So, she said that her father wanted her siblings to be at her wedding, but she was like, no, absolutely not. And actually, wait, that just made me think, because she said that she didn't really, oh no, she found out about them in her teens. She didn't come around though until her father passed, which was 10 years ago, 5, however many years. Okay. Sorry, y'all. Doing the math in my head in real time. But yeah, I'm glad to see them in a good place. I hope that they can remain always in a good place. I wonder how her mother feels about that. Yeah, I wonder how her mother feels about that. I'm curious. Anyway, what else happened? So yeah, she didn't want them at her wedding, obviously, because she's being defiant. But now she just sees that her dad wanted all his children to be together. And I mean, I understand that, but again, I hope he understood that he made it really, his actions kind of make it really hard for there not to be some level of resentment, or he made that harder by the way he created this additional family. Anyway, so the final scene we get, y'all, is Wendy again. She's at her newly renovated home, and she wants to show her sister and her mother the finished product. And so they come in. You see the boys, they had on their Happy Eddie shirts. Cameron was there being cute. So she's showing them the house. She's showing them the black toilet paper. She is showing her mom the spice drawer, of which her mom responds by pointing out how Wendy don't really be cooking like that, according to her, I guess. And I'm like, okay. But can we also talk about, like, her mom came in on the scene, and I know there's been a lot of speculation on whether or not her mom has been bleaching, but I feel 100% okay with saying that, yes, this lady that we saw come into the scene is not the same lady that we saw for the first episode of Wendy's first appearance on the show. It's not. And the foundation also was wrong. The wig was back here at her nape when she came in on the screen. It was a lot going on. And I first of all, I'll be like, Mom, cut the cameras. First of all, let me help you out. Two, her sister's wig was also sitting up as high as a box Chevy. But anyway, there's a lot going on. It was a lot going on. But anyway, her mom and her sister, they say that everything looks really nice though, and they all gather in the kitchen to eat a bit after the tour. And her mom was like, must have carved you an arm and a leg. Oh boy. Anyway, I'm like, as if you care about how much money is in your daughter's pockets. Anyway, so Wendy begins to tell them about the conversation she had with her dad and how it went really well. It was a great conversation that made her super happy. And Ivy's like, I mean, as long as you feel good about it, which we know that Ivy doesn't really feel the same yearning to mend the relationship between her and her father as Wendy does. So I wasn't really surprised that she said that. And I also wasn't surprised that, and her also kind of like being a big sister, I guess, she was also like, I just hope that you don't get your hopes up. And Wendy's like, I'm not going to get my hopes up. And I was like, because he's notorious for being a disappointment. So don't put him on this pedestal. Like, yes, he gave birth to you, but, and as she's saying that, then Susan, or the mama jumps in and she's like, whoa, I gave birth to her. I pushed her out. He didn't do anything but be a freaking sperm donor. And at that point, Wendy's like, okay, well, you guys were married, so I don't really think it's, fair for you to refer to him as a sperm donor. And Susan, she continues on to say that he didn't help her take care of shit. He didn't even check on them. So that's why she gave him the title, like point blank. That's how she sees it. And Wendy's recognizing that this conversation is probably not suited for her children's ears. And so she's like, hold on. Mother's across the counter, across the island. Ivy's here. Eddie's back here. Kids are on the steps or whatever. And she's like, hold on. Let me just, Cruz, can you please take your sister upstairs? And she puts her finger up, whatever. At no point does she reach over. At no point was she doing like no, she wasn't doing none of that. She's, hold up, let me, can I, yeah. Because as a mother, her thing is, you can, like, I got to protect them. And, the kids were, of course, lingering for a minute. Eddie was back there and I was like, I don't even know why Wendy had to do that. I feel like Eddie should have clocked it and been like, kids upstairs or whatever. Just saying, like, I'm not trying to shift blame or, say that he is like dead ass wrong for not jumping in and doing that. But I just assume that excuse me, y'all. I sneezed and then I forgot I was on mute. I'm not trying to say that he's dead ass wrong for that as much as I'm just saying me as a spouse that's how I would have handled it. Yeah. So anyway, her mama starts looking for her bag. She's ready to leave because she's like, you're not about to do that to me. You're not about to, put your fingers in my face and that's disrespectful. I'm ready to go. I gave birth to you. I'm already pissed off. So don't piss me more off. Getting elevated. And she's like, I came here to see the renovations, not here to hear about somebody who abandoned my children. Like, that's not what we're doing. I work 4 jobs. You know how much money I paid for you to go to school. Like, I'm not here to listen to this. And in her confessional, Wendy's like, this feeling is very deep for her mom to have carried the weight of this for 40 something odd years. And she's sure that she has a lot of resentment to her dad, but don't give her that energy. She doesn't deserve that energy. And Wendy goes on to say that the person that she is speaking on is also those kids' grandfather, and though they don't need to hear that. And again, that's when I kind of was like, I feel a little bit differently watching this back and really like mulling over it, y'all, just to try to jump into my own thoughts on it. I do think that Susan was dead ass wrong for what she's about to say here in a second. I also think that Wendy, knowing how her mom is, like, this isn't the first time her mom has let it be known how she feels about that man. I feel so confident in that fact. So if I were her, I personally would just leave her out of that. And not even just if I were her, I was her. Same type of family dynamic for the most part too, except me and my sister, we have different dads. My mom, my dad are now a lot better. Like, it's like night and day. And my parents didn't get on better terms with one another until I went to the military at 19 years old, to be honest with you. So, but growing up, I did often feel like kind of like monkey in the middle. And I did often feel like my mother did let me feel, how she felt about my dad growing up. And that was awkward for me, or made me feel oftentimes like I couldn't, speak highly on him, or, she didn't have many nice things to say about him. And so I do understand and empathize with how Wendy feels about that. And I'm not saying that it's fair to be silenced, but in order to omit this type of thing from happening, i.e., because you do care about your mom too, and it is her right to have, what's it called? It is her right to have had her own journey and experience with your father, and her feelings are valid. But I would just protect my own peace and just not even approach it at all. Not even let that be known. Like, there's no need really for you to tell her about this, to be honest. And yeah, that's how I kind of feel about that. And I also, well, actually, let me just jump back into some of the things that were said, because Ivy does get into it at one point too, because Wendy starts to roll her eyes, and Ivy's like, okay, fine, the kids don't need to hear that, but your presentation was wrong. And I'm like, well, she didn't, like, and I get it, high context culture that they come from, like, I get it. But she didn't like no. I feel like that was, they were kind of blowing that situation out of proportion with the whole, she wasn't waving her fingers in her face or nothing like that. I get it if you don't like the gesture, but technically speaking, like, I just don't think that she did it out of a disrespectful place, as much as it's like her just trying to regain control, safeguard her children, which is also Wendy's right, even though I don't feel like, that's another thing, I don't feel like we should coddle our kids to the point of allowing them to be kind of like delusional, honestly, after a certain point. And this is also something that I've dealt with on a personal level too, where I think as your children come of age, it is perfectly okay for you to have certain conversations with them, especially when your daughter's running around here talking about Donald Trump. So clearly she has some level of perception of, she has some level of mental maturity to be able to handle certain types of conversations and stuff like that. And again, you don't want them to grow up being delusional. It's not that you're trying to frame this image of a person in their minds. Like, no, they still give them the ability to create their own perception of these people, but that you don't have to sit there and if something's a fact, it's a fact. If your dad wasn't there, then he wasn't there. And I don't feel like that's bad for the kids to not know that. So I understand what Ivy meant and so many breaths on that note, but I also disagree because Wendy wasn't, I don't think that Wendy was doing too much. And so Susan picks back up that baton, and she's like, your grandfather that didn't see his grandchildren forever, like when they went across the world for the first time in their life. Also true. I can understand that. But again, it's Wendy's right to approach it how she wants to with her kids. And then Susan starts to shade Wendy on her culture. And I was like, okay, what does that have to do with anything? Because last time I checked, you're the lady who walked in here looking like you just jumped in the laundry in the white laundry load with the bleach and came on our screen. So who really is out of touch with their culture? Just saying. I'm just saying, y'all. So and then Wendy's like, she feels like it's always 2-on-1. And even as we close out this scene, she's talking about, well, that's why, she wanted or yearned a relationship with her dad, because it's always them together and her by herself, always by herself. And I'm like, I can understand what you're saying there, but at the same time, I don't feel like the reason why you should be seeking a relationship with him is just based on like, because it's always 2-on-1, if that makes sense, because then that might allow you to just go along and accept whatever from him or whatever. Like, it should just be genuinely just because you want to have that relationship, not hinged on that fact. That's how I feel. And I also feel like stuff like this is obviously not the first time that things have got blown out of proportion. Eddie actually comes over at one point, and he was really respectful in it, was trying to, get things to like settle down a bit and say, voices are caring, kids are there, like, yada, yada, yada. And I respect him and understand where he's coming from with that. I also respect the fact that he didn't allow his wife to feel alone, and he was there to support her after the fact. And by after the fact, I mean after Ivy and Susan leave, because Wendy got emotional and she was telling like Eddie, she was like, I don't even want, I'm going to get the fuck out. And Ivy caught that, and she was like, oh, like, so you want us to get the fuck out? Okay, bet. All right, y'all be blessed. And she leaves in her pink outfit. And again, this is after it got to the point of Susan telling Wendy to shut the fuck up. Which, again, respect goes two ways, y'all. I'm sorry, it does. I get it. You only get one mama. But at the same time, she only gets one Wendy. And it's like, you talking to me crazy. And also, she's the one that be funding your lifestyle. And honestly, this scene was very, very telling for me, because I'm thinking like, this might have a reason. This might be one of the reasons behind why she may or may not have gotten herself into the financial situation, into the legal situation she's having in real time right now. Because Susan gives me, she really only cares about herself when it comes to it at this point in her life, which to a degree I understand. You should be selfish. Your kids are grown, yada, yada, yada. But you shouldn't be selfish to the point that you're forcing your children to fund your lifestyle and stuff like that. Like, I could see if she lived with them and stuff like that or whatever, but you having your hand out expecting $500 cash apps, yeah, I remember, is a little wild to me. It is. And again, I feel like based on this type of situation, and based on the fact that she is trying to rekindle this relationship with her father, depending on how these legal matters go, I wonder if this will actually make her be closer to her father now, especially if he is going to be her main familial support, obviously other than Eddie. But I wonder if that'll actually push her into that relationship more, if he has her back more than her mom, or whatever. Because I would be at the point, you told me to shut the fuck up, I'm at the point where, hell, I might blame the whole shit on you, mom. Sorry, that sounds bad, doesn't it? But honestly, like, that was wild to me. I feel like we didn't need all that. I do feel like Wendy was right when she said her mom was trying to make a moment, because nobody called you an idiot. Like, and I get it, you quit your job, you did all these types of things, and that's why I say, Wendy, you don't need to have these conversations with your mother to begin with. You don't need to speak about your father to your mother at all. I get that, but like, I have critiques on both sides, but disrespect is disrespect. And I don't feel like Wendy started to be disrespectful sooner than her mother did. I really don't. Do I have anything else to say? I think that's all I have to say about this episode, y'all. I do. You should watch the Stacey interview if you guys get a chance to. It was good. I enjoyed that. Stacey, as much as she could have disparaged everybody on the cast, I feel like she didn't. So that was, I respect her for that. I also respect her for attempting to show and provide proof of the contracts and receipts and dates and stuff like that for her business, and how it didn't fall in line with the reunion last year when she told them that it wasn't in the works. But she said that everybody, the Wendy's and Giselle's or whatever, they didn't want to see those receipts. So at that point, they're not allowed to bring it up anymore. Then if she was going to show it to you and you decided you declined, And I also appreciated her giving us a little bit more detail as to the fact that Kay and her, like, they were really cool at first. And when she found out that Kay was coming on full time, she congratulated her. She reached out to her. She was just very sincere and genuine with her. And only for Kay to obviously get on the season and flip on her was just like, whoa. I appreciated her giving us more context about that. But yeah, I think that's it, y'all. Again, I appreciate you if you guys have been watching all 51 plus minutes of this at this point. Again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, do all the things. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.